Welcome to Faith Works Live. Here's your host, Rebekah Haney.
And we're rolling. It is so great to be with you here on Faith Works Live. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. It's gorgeous from where I sit. And I mean, for February sunshine, that's pretty good. And it's a not only a beautiful day because of that. I got to see one of the greatest minds of our generation in person, Jordan Peterson, last night. And it was a 6-hour round trip. So it was worth the drive for my husband and I, because that's what we do for date night. And when you got 6 kids, and it takes a little planning. We had Jordan Peterson in town as an excuse. But it was a conversation I will be digesting for quite some time and pondering. But he gave me the word of the day, because everybody knows we love the word of the day. And that is perspicacity. The word of the day on the show is perspicacity, which means the quality of having a ready insight into things, or shrewdness, insight and wisdom. And that is what I expect from our next guest. And she will provide in spades. If you've seen her debates on college campuses, her, over and over again, her destroying on the issue of life, the pro-abortion side, she is well known and well respected. And I am so eager to get her insights on how we can be unapologetically pro-life, because I really think the time is now. We have to move on the issue that we care so much about and so deeply. This is the number one issue for my heart. The cry of my heart is equal protection for all human beings made in the image of God. And Kristan Hawkins is on our airwaves today. She is the president for Students for Life of America. Incredibly busy, so grateful for her time today. Kristan, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I will try to have some perspicacity. Isn't
that a great word?
Today in this interview. But yes, I was thinking, like you were saying, I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to remember how to say that word.
Well, I'm going to use it like 5 or 6 times just so I know I'm doing it correctly. I'll get it practiced and I'll get it right. Man, he's got Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you've ever met him, but he's got such a great vocabulary, and it makes you sit up and take note. And then it kind of washes over you like an avalanche. And you're like, I hope I'm catching 1 out of every 10 words. But yeah, lots to think about from that. But I also loved thinking about your article that you wrote recently, a few weeks ago now, about how the GOP has to be unapologetically pro-life. And that's been the cry. I mean, I've been advocating for this for about 15 years or so. And I have been continually shocked and saddened at the moderation, or I guess the instinct to preemptively compromise from people on my own side. Like, I know that they believe in life, and at least that's what they tell me on their campaign commercials, and we work for them, we get them elected, and then it seems like they are willing to compromise, or they're afraid to lead on the issue of life. And I've noticed that getting worse, not better, over the last few years. And so I know how many of these top-level conversations you're involved in, and you're very aware of that. So I was so grateful to hear your clarion call towards being unapologetically pro-life. Can you talk for a minute about why that is so important right now in this moment and in this election?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. You know, the media has really they've been working overtime to spin this narrative that the pro-life movement, pro-life issue, I hate when the people call it an issue, but it's this losing issue. And then you have, GOP funders, strategists, the entire kind of GOP apparatus now saying, well, maybe we should back away from abortion. And it's, incredibly frustrating, because we don't do this work. For us in the pro-life movement, abortion is not a political issue. It is a human rights issue. We engage politically. Absolutely. That's where we can see great change made. But, for someone to say, well, it's a losing issue, therefore we shouldn't talk about it. It's when I hear a candidate say that, they've just lost all of my support, because we're not engaging in this battle because we think it's going to help us win voters or win that election. We're engaging in this fight because it's the right thing to do. Standing up for vulnerable, innocent human beings is always the absolute right thing to do. And I think that's, you start to see kind of these leaders that, as you said, in their campaign commercials, Rebekah, have said they were pro-life. They've, taken the endorsement from the local pro-life organizations. They've shown up at the pro-life banquets. All the while Roe was, the tyranny of the land, saying, well, there's not really much I can do, but I'm totally with you. Well, yeah, it was very easy to be pro-life then. But
Right.
now when it's, Roe's off the table, Roe has fallen, and legislators, whether, don't get me started about some of your legislators there in Iowa, Rebekah. I don't, I mean, my gosh, your Speaker of the House, for example, who's been holding up some of our pro-life legislation. It's unbelievable what some of these legislators will not do now. And it's like, well, we'll see, but look at the polls, Chris. I'm like, well, first of all, a lot of times when you look at polling, a lot of it's manufactured, and it's, you can write the poll for how you want the outcome to be. I know this. I do my own polling at Students for Life, and I have to be extremely cautious of how the question's written, because I don't want to push poll. I want something that's an accurate gauge of where young people stand on the issue of abortion. But you're telling me you're not going to do the right thing because of a poll, or you're saying that you want to make peace with abortion, or make peace with a lot of abortion, and then try to claim that you're pro-life when you've only supporting, I don't know, a 15-week or 16-week, quote unquote ban on abortion, which, by the way, the left will turn and use against you, that will literally only save maybe 5% of children. That's not a pro-life stance. And so, that's why I wrote the op-ed, and why I continue to kind of be a pain and all of the Republican establishment's backside is really to get to them that we're not going to go away and we're not going to let this slide.
Yeah. And I'd amen to everything you just said. And I think we have to talk about what's happening in our state, and because it's just a microcosm, to use another word that I heard last night, that it's happening all over the place. And you have leaders that claim to be pro-life, and maybe they even do hold those convictions, but they're concerned about the electoral fallout. They're concerned about what everyone says is political suicide, which is to stand for life, actually do what we say we believe. And in our state, in Iowa, for example, we have what we often term as the trifecta. We've got conservative leadership in our House, our Senate, and in our executive, our governor. And all of them would claim to be pro-life. And yet we've had the hardest time coming to a consensus around good, solid pro-life legislation. It's almost as though, I don't know if you stop me if you've heard this one before, it's almost as though they're trying to compromise before they even get anything done. And so as a result, I've seen some great legislation that some of our friends have been backing. We've seen equal protection bills, which is a very, very, one of the strongest bills I've ever seen in the country. We've seen the heartbeat. So just to back up for anybody who isn't in the thick of this, we've got life at conception, which defines life and protects life. We've got a whole variety of other strategies that are being promoted. And then we've got the heartbeat law that is currently in court again before the Supreme Court. And so what happens is you've got these people that all say they're pro-life, and yet they back different strategies. And they say, well, we can't go for what we really believe, which is life at conception, for example, because it might jeopardize this court case, or we don't think that we've got the votes in caucus. And I'm like, curious. I wonder how that could be, because they all said they were pro-life when they got elected. So I would love to get your take on the effect. Like I feel sick to my stomach sometimes watching these fights and being down at the Capitol and advocating for life, and the people that will say they're with me to my face and yet vote differently. And I really have, it activates my prayer life. I'll say that. That's the silver lining. But I would love to get your take on effective strategies on a statewide level for not just electing Republicans, because I don't consider that a victory if they're not going to stand for life, just like you. Right. So what can we do to actually move on this, and not just move hearts and minds, but to get people to vote according to what they promised us they would?
I'm actually texting my team right now, because I want to say, how many primary battles are we going to be engaging in Iowa this spring? Because that's how you get the job done, Rebekah. And that's what we've seen. One of the stories that was widely, it wasn't reported at all. It was underreported, just wasn't reported in 2022, when there was all this disappointment about, the red wave didn't come to shore, or it was just a red splattering. But what we saw, we were super excited at Students for Life Action, because we had strategically engaged earlier in 2022 in primaries. Then we went into the general election. All of our supported candidates, what we attempted to do was, where we were trying to pass pro-life legislation in states, and were identified pro-lifers said that they would not help us, or killed our bill, or wouldn't support our bill. We found primary opponents. And we got involved. Students went door knocking. We were sending texts and doing mail. Those guys won, and they actually ended up winning in the general. And so we went into the legislative session in 2023 across the country in many state houses with a stronger pro-life majority than we actually had in 2022. And so the question I always ask myself, it's not, how many R's do we have? It's how many, PLs do we have? How many pro-lifers do we really have? That's exactly what's going to have to happen this spring, specifically in Iowa, because you had a life at conception bill. We had our chemical abortion prevention act, our wastewater act as well. It was a House Bill 146 and then 510. The speaker held up the introduction of the Life at Conception Act last session to like the last moment when there was no chance of getting things through. And so what we keep hearing is, well, we're very hesitant to pass a new pro-life law because of the court case or whatever. And so they just haven't done absolutely anything. Well, our students will remember that when we're there at the doors this spring. So I'm excited for that, but that answers your question. That's how we get actual traction in November. That's how we change things, is engaging in the primaries, which will, even if we're not victorious in some of the races, we saw us in Wyoming. It took us, 3 sessions to get our chemical abortion prevention act passed there in Wyoming. In some of the primaries we won, and the ones we didn't, those members suddenly rediscover their pro-life values the next legislative session, because they said, holy crap, there's a bunch of students in my district in Wyoming door knocking and telling my voters that I'm not pro-life, which most people don't think about, right? I don't know any other national pro-life group that's engaging in Republican primaries. And like I said, it doesn't make me very popular with the Washington establishment. It's okay. I'm a mom of 4. I've got 5 friends here with me, plus my 4 puppies. So I'm good, right?
Right, exactly.
But it certainly doesn't make you friends engaging in primaries. But I am not, and our pro-life generation does not see ourselves as an extension of the Republican Party. Yes, I am a Republican. Yes, do I mostly vote straight ticket Republican in most races? Absolutely. But my goal and my mission in life is to advance the pro-life movement. And we're not going to advance if we lose Republicans, if we lose courageous leaders who are willing to pass the laws, introduce the laws. And that means sometimes telling people the truth about those who are really just using us to get elected, but not lifting a finger once they're in office.
Yeah. Oh man, you're preaching to the choir on that one. I don't know how many times I've been told that I'm divisive just by telling the truth about somebody's record.
Oh yes.
Oh man, you've heard that all the same. I know. And I think...
No, my favorite one I hear is from legislators is, you all pro-life groups need to get on the same page and you can introduce one bill. And I'm like, and I kind of shake my head. I'm like, wait, is there some rule that pro-lifers can only introduce one piece of legislation in a session? Like, because we heard that last year in Nebraska, for example. We introduced the Life Conception Act. Some of our friends introduced the Heartbeat Act. We supported both acts, but we wanted to see it. We wanted to see the Life and Conception Act. We realized it probably wasn't going to get passed, but we wanted to start seeing traction. That's how you get traction for bills. And so it was like this, well, you can't do that. You can't do that here. I'm like, well, who says you can't do it? Like, where are these rules that they come up with? And they're like, well, that's very divisive for you to have 2 different pro-life bills. I'm like, no, it's not. Vote for both of them. That's not, it's not divisive at all.
Yeah. Well, and that's been part of, we hear you loud and clear in Iowa. What we've been told over and over is that because we have this heartbeat law, that it is again moving through the courts. It was passed and then it was struck down, refused to be implemented. Then they had a change of heart and then they still refused it. And now the governor called a special session, passed it again, and now it's in the courts yet again. So drama notwithstanding, it's still not enough, I think, for the pro-lifers of Iowa. We believe in life at conception. And if y'all said that you believe in life at conception, then it's still, that's going to be the goal. And we can't use, what I often hear is, you can't make the perfect the enemy of the good. I'm like, yeah, but you're making the barely good enough the enemy of the goal. And we can't keep doing that anymore. No, sir. No, ma'am. And I love that you're getting involved in the primaries. I know that needs to be, even for people that don't feel particularly combative or politically inclined, this is what matters. And it's in the same way, we're kind of rediscovering that we are the boss in America, that the people are the ones who should have the say. And, if you have an employee that continually promises that they'll do their job, and then every time you turn their back, they're not, they're doing the opposite and telling you have to like it, then I think it's probably time for them to go be released to new endeavors and to find an employee who will do the job.
That's exactly right. I mean, politicians, they respond to one thing, and that is strength. They are number one job when they take office is to see themselves reelected. Mm-hmm. And so you have to speak to what they will listen to is that, will you be reelected with this position? And so, I absolutely agree. I mean, for example, in Iowa, there was no reason, even if you wanted to make an argument of, because the court's holding the heartbeat bill up, we don't want to pass another gestational, law. Why not protect against chemical abortion pills in Iowa? The fact is, chemical abortion pills, thanks to the Biden administration's reckless FDA, are now being shipped across state lines from California, from New York, and the states across country, from overseas with vendors we don't even know have any quality controls at all. Women are ordering these drugs online, and they're having abortions in their bathrooms. Your daughter can be having an abortion in her bathroom and then flushing down the toilet your grandchild, your great-grandchild. By the way, when she does that, her child, the blood, the tissue, the placenta that the child develops that also enters the toilet or the bathtub, all of those are chemically tainted now with these chemical abortion pills that contain active metabolites that are known endocrine disruptors for animals and are entering our water. So I know everyone's obsessed, they want to take away my gas stove, right? But no one wants to talk about the fact that we are, the leading cause of abortion in America today are chemical abortion pills. It's going to be the next time we don't have a national abortion reporting law. Tragically, Planned Parenthood won't allow that to happen. But we do know from the abortion industry's own monitoring, and the trend lines are leading us to believe it's going to be about 75% of abortions are going to be committed using these pills. These pills are not only killing babies, they're not only harming women, potentially making them unable to carry other children to term, killing women, but they're actually polluting our water and harming animals and aquatic life. So, I mean, if you want to talk about a common sense issue that everybody left and right should care about, even those who are pro-choice, they should care about polluting the water. So there was no excuse down there in Des Moines for why they weren't able to see the law actually passed for chemical abortion this year, other than just the Republicans not really willing to do the right thing, which is why they need to be held accountable. Now, all this to say, that the Democrats are absolutely 100% evil when it comes to abortion. The Democrats are, aligned ideologically that they want to see abortion up until the moment of birth for whatever reason and taxpayer funded. They have promised this over and over again. They keep using this phrase, codify Roe. That's not codifying Roe. The Women's Health Protection Act, and I put protection in quotes, that Nancy Pelosi rammed through the House and passed the House twice. Thankfully, it didn't get a vote in the Senate. That bill goes further than Roe versus Wade. That's the bill that President Joe Biden has put his name on, that he wants to see passed. And that would fund abortions up until the moment of birth for whatever reason. And that's what the Democrats want. And so, we have to be, at Students for Life Action and Students for Life America, we're doing Too Extreme for Me campaigns, educating young people in college campuses about how extreme Democrats are on abortion. Our own polling from our Dimitri Institute for Pro-Life Advancement in January found that less than 1 out of 10 Gen Z and Gen Y actually support the Democratic National Committee's platform on abortion. That story needs to be told. And Republicans should be leading on telling that story. Because if you're worried as a elected official, as Republican, about how your constituents will feel about your pro-life stance, what you really need to do is you need to tell them what the Democrat stance are, because your constituent may not be 100% with us that all abortions are wrong. But I can guarantee you that your constituent's going to be closer to your view than the view of the Democrats, because no one even, when we are having these conversations, Rebekah, on campuses with students, students look at us like we've made this stat up. They've never heard what the Democrats' platform is. They've never heard of the Women's Health Protection Act. They only hear these key phrases that Planned Parenthood puts out and they perpetuate out on social media. But when people learn, this is that was so sad about what happened in Ohio this winter, this fall. We were on campuses for $12 a student. We were changing pro-choice voters' minds, young people who were going to vote for issue 1, who after having a conversation with us and learned how extreme issue 1 was, were saying they were voting against it. It's still a winning message. You've got to be there, put your, feet on the pavement, knock on the doors and have those conversations.
Yeah. And we really appreciate all the hard work that Students for Life is doing all across the country. I look forward to seeing the impact of that here in Iowa. Do you mind if I ask you a tough question?
Go for it.
Okay. I knew you wouldn't shrink back. So I had the opportunity to talk with Donald Trump about, he was in Des Moines for a town hall because it was pre the Iowa caucuses. And so we get access sometimes like that. And I had the opportunity to ask Donald Trump the pro-life question, which was the one that he was asked during the whole, leading up to that. I didn't hear him address it very much. And so I was thankful for the opportunity, but I was not altogether impressed with his answer, which was essentially to lead with exceptions. He talked a little bit about a 15-week compromise, possibly. He called Hillary beautiful, and he made some jokes. But ultimately, it seemed like he was preemptively compromising. I just got to be honest. I was not impressed with that answer. And if he's at the top of the ticket, I guess I just have to wonder how we can lead the charge on this when the leader is openly is leading with compromise. I was somewhat disheartened by that.
It's a position for him to take. And I've had numerous conversations with his campaign staff that it doesn't behoove him at all to take a position on a gestational limit on abortion, because even, this weekend, there was a story from the New York Times, which we don't know is true. The author of it is a known liar when it comes to abortion-related stories. But the story was Donald Trump is privately supporting a 16-week bill.
Yeah,
a 16-week bill would save maybe 5% of children from abortion. So in my view, it's not really a pro-life bill because, if we're compromising with ourselves to save 5%, it's that's ridiculous.
Right.
We were to the left of France. But then, to say that, that you support any gestational limit, instantly the left attaches on that. So within an hour of that New York Times article hit, I got a text message from Joe Biden and Planned Parenthood all saying Donald Trump supports a national abortion ban, vote for me. So they're using it to get support. And all that does is make my students, the students that, who volunteer for free for these political campaigns, such as Donald Trump's campaign, not want to go do the hard thing, which is to knock on doors, because they're looking like, why would I support someone who is saying that they want 95% of abortions to continue? So we asked the Trump campaign to clarify his remarks. What we've talked to his campaign about is really emphasizing what a president can do without 60 votes in the Senate. What can a president do? Well, the number one job of the president is to appoint a pro-life presidential administration and to guarantee pro-life judicial appointments. What we've seen with brilliantly, yet tragically done with the Biden administration, is they have shown all of America that abortion is a federal issue. I don't know if you remember, after Dobbs came down, Roe's reversed, all these senators in D.C. were lining up saying, well, abortion's not a federal issue anymore. And we were like, no, wait a minute. It's a federal and a state issue now.
Yeah.
And no one's actually arguing that anymore, because they know just how much the Biden administration, they're putting 85-year-old grandmas in prison. There's a number of grandmothers who are praying in front of an abortion facility who are waiting what we believe is going to be 11-year federal prison sentence for praying in front of an abortion facility. His FDA, led by Javier Becerra, the abortion activist in chief, who's our HHS secretary, they have unleashed chemical abortion drugs without doctors. It's the whole line of abortions between a mother and her doctor that has gone away with the Biden administration. Anyone, even a rapist, can order chemical abortion drugs and feed them to his victim here in America, and there's no questions asked. I could literally go the Department of Labor and their new regulations on businesses and how we have to accommodate women who've left for abortion, and they have to get certain days off. The Department of Defense, who for months this summer and fall did not move on any military promotions because they were insisting on violating the law and using our taxpayer dollars to fund abortion travel for military service women and their families. I mean, it's literally in every cabinet. So that's what Donald Trump is talking about, not hypotheticals about gestational limits that, right now we're not at. He needs to talk about what he can do. And I think it's, for someone who is, he's written The Art of the Deal. That's a bad deal for pro-lifers. And you're not going to get, in one article, he said, or interview, he's going to make everybody happy. When you're dealing with the issue of abortion, evil abortion, Donald Trump, you are not going to make everybody happy, because Planned Parenthood, the abortion lobby, will not be happy unless abortion is readily available and up to the moment of birth and taxpayer funded. So yes, I would encourage folks, and what we've been doing is encouraging folks to teach Trump life, remind him the life begins at conception, and tell him to clarify his remarks and to get back to being the most pro-life president we've ever had.
Yeah. And I think if he were just to attach himself to the vision, I remember there was a quote from Abigail Adams that said, essentially, there's only two creatures of worth in this world, one who has a vision and one who requires the vision of others. And so if the vision is not, because without a vision, the people perish, the word of God says. So if we can provide the vision, and then we can provide the incentive and the instigation for our employees in Washington and at the state level to attach onto that vision and to continue to promote that pro-life vision. It's not about nobody loves the thou shalt nots in the Bible, but they're there for our good. And so if we can talk about the vision for life, of what it means to build a culture of life. And I have seen some glimmers of hope around that. We talk about living out our pro-life, about adoption, about a whole life perspective, about, recognizing the value of life from our very beginnings until God calls us home. There is a much bigger vision at play here. We have to stop the killing of innocent babies. Absolutely. That's 100% true. But I think if we can provide the vision and we can assure politicians that we'll support them when they adhere to that and continue to promote that, and that if not, well, then we're going to need to hire someone else who will, because this is a non-negotiable and it's not compromisable. It's not my standard. And that's why it's not our standard. It's God's standard. It's the standard of right and wrong, of justice. I think across the board, I truly believe that if we looked at it from the truth about honoring life, that this could be a bipartisan issue. It could be something, not with today's Democratic Party, but ideally we can talk to people about why we shouldn't be killing our next generation. And I pray that we would have a revival in this country so that we understand the true magnitude of what we're talking about with this question, the real lives that are at stake every single day in this. It's not just political, it's existential. And Kristan, before we go, I know you're super busy, but I know that you also get to see glimmers of hope as you're working around the country with students, like I said, the next generation that is probably more pro-life and more passionate about this than we might know or we might understand. So would you mind sharing where your hope comes from and some of the movement that you're seeing among these young hearts and minds?
Yeah, I'm in such a privileged position to see this pro-life generation at work every single day. We've had more discrimination cases, more vandalization cases in the past 2 years with our student leaders than we had in the 16 years before that. So obviously our students are up against a lot on campuses, but these young people, they continue to show up. They continue to host events. They continue to change minds. We're changing minds. 10 to 15% of young people we speak with on college campuses have a change of heart when it comes to abortion, or move their position closer to the pro-life side after encountering the pro-life generation. I get to meet babies that have been saved because the Students for Life group put up flyers on their campus, or the leaders were putting out our standingwithyou.org website on their social media where she could go for instant help. So I get to meet these mothers whose whole lives have been changed, these children who are literally here because someone dared to speak up for them. I get to meet these young leaders who despite the violence, the threats of violence, despite the very acts of violence that have been committed against them, or the acts of discrimination against them on their campuses by their administration or their student government. We had a big case there at University of North Iowa just 2 years ago with the student government trying to label the Students for Life group a hate group. But they've persevered. And they're stronger and they're undeterred. They're not going to give up. And I think that's the message that, I think sometimes the adults need to take a cue from the students a little bit. Especially the adults there in Washington, D.C., who, they like to remind us how long they've been around the block and how much experience they have. And then you have these conversations with them about abolishing abortion and changing our culture and transforming hearts and minds. And then they look at you and will say, well, that's not going to happen. I mean, that's the same conversation I used to have since the moment I launched Students for Life, when people looked at me like I had three heads when I said, well, when Roe versus Wade's going to be reversed.
Yep.
And folks were not ready for the reversal of Roe versus Wade. Tragically, organizations that I deeply care about, are deeply important, were not ready for the reversal of Roe versus Wade. They thought, Kristan was just crazy. And I think when you're talking about this, leaders with the scripture, with the leaders without vision will perish. And that's, we as leaders of this human rights movement have to have the vision in our mind of what America without abortion looks like, where no woman feels like she has to choose between the life of her child or education, where every human being is respected and welcomed in life and protected by the law. We have to have that vision in our heads, and it has to move from our heads down to our hearts and then down to our hands and feet, and we have to get active. That's how we win. That is why, Rebekah, I did all these media interviews at our National Pro-Life Summit the day after the National Pro-Life March in January. And it was ABC and Politico and The Guardian and New York Times, all the big people. Sure. And the question I kept getting is, well, you guys kept losing these ballot referendums. So when are you just going to give up? And the response, what they wanted to hear from me was that, yeah, we've lost, we've taken some losses. Therefore, we're depressed, we're tired, we're going to give up. And that's absolutely not the case. And that's why they get so frustrated, is because they don't understand when we're serving in the pro-life movement. Not everybody in the pro-life movement is a Christian, but the majority are. We already know that the victory has been won for us. We know who it is we're serving. We know the purpose we've been made for. And so that gives us joy, even amidst the defeats. It gives us the motivation to continue on and to realize at the end of the day, we're going to be victorious. We don't know the time or the place, maybe. We may not know the particular strategy or tactic that's going to be the thing that's going to lead us home and make abortion truly a thing of the past. But it's going to happen. And no matter what they throw at us, no matter what they do to us, no matter how many negative articles they write about us, we aren't going to go away. And they just don't understand that.
Amen and Excelsior. There's the vision. Now let's go live it out. Kristan Hawkins, President of Students for Life for America. It is a joy to have you with us. Thank you for your perspicacity.
Thank you for bringing that up. I'm trying to do that with my kids right now.
5 times today, and it'll be a part of your vocabulary, right?
Oh my God.
Kristan, God bless you, and stand strong. I know it's tough out there, but we really appreciate we need you on that wall, and we're behind you. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless.
God bless. Bye-bye. So until next time, you're listening to Faith Works Live. We have a mission, so let's be about it. That mission is to love God, to serve people, and to live free. If you've ever wondered what love looks like, check out Agape Pregnancy Resource Center. They offer free services to help women make informed decisions and prepare for their futures. In particular, in a situation of an unplanned pregnancy, women need to know that the truth about their bodies. They need to know the truth about their babies and all of their options. And they'll find that at Agape Pregnancy Resource Center. Go to agapedsm.com and find ways that you can get involved in this amazing ministry, whether it's free pregnancy testing, STD testing, free ultrasounds and counseling, not to mention practical resources, hygiene items, parenting classes, just the list goes on. They change lives. This is a place that truly helps
people. And if you care about the women in our community, check out agapedsm.com and click on Get Involved today. There's no better time than now to stand for life. And you can stand with Iowa's original pro-life organization, Pulse for Life. They're the longest-standing nonprofit pro-life organization in Iowa, and they're dedicated to informing, educating, and inspiring a new generation to value the sanctity of all human life, from fertilization until natural death. They serve at the State House. They educate in classrooms, at events. They proudly serve on the coalition of pro-life leaders. They are on the front lines of the battle against this throwaway culture of death that we see all around us, and we are winning ground. Hearts and minds are changing, and the pro-life movement is continuing to grow. And you can be a part of the exciting things that are happening right here in our own backyard at pulseforlife.org and get your finger on the pro-life pulse. Sign up for their newsletter, find ways that you can make a difference, and how you can change hearts and minds with their pro-life apologetics course, pulseforlife.org. In today's world, security has never been more vital. And at FaithWorks Live, we're proud to partner with VeriGuard Security. It's a professional physical security service, and they're really raising the bar in security and private investigations. Whether you need a team of professional officers to protect what you have worked hard to build, or their mobile security units for multiple properties or large locations, from business or corporate properties to your home or neighborhood. Perhaps you've got an event coming up. They secure quality security coverage for events large and small, because it's about peace of mind and protecting you, your family, your team, and your property. Settle for nothing less than the best when it comes to your security. You shouldn't have to compromise. When it comes to security, you can trust VeriGuard. Contact them today at veriguard.us. That's VARA guard.us. For security service, you can trust VeriGuard. There's no better time than now to stand for life. And you can stand with Iowa's original pro-life organization, Pulse for Life. They're the longest-standing nonprofit pro-life organization in Iowa, and they're dedicated to informing, educating, and inspiring a new generation to value the sanctity of all human life, from fertilization until natural death. They serve at the State House. They educate in classrooms, at events. They proudly serve on the coalition of pro-life leaders. They are on the front lines of the battle against this throwaway culture of death that we see all around us, and we are winning ground. Hearts and minds are changing, and the pro-life movement is continuing to grow. And you can be a part of the exciting things that are happening right here in our own backyard at pulseforlife.org and get your finger on the pro-life pulse. Sign up for their newsletter, find ways that you can make a difference, and how you can change hearts and minds with their pro-life apologetics course, pulseforlife.org.